Alright guys, here we are with the last video for the French Revolution. And it is going to be all about the downfall of Napoleon as the Emperor of France. Starting with the Napoleonic Wars. Unfortunately, this is going to be the start of his downfall. He will not be able to recover from these wars. But it is a series of conflicts that are fought through those 16 years, as you can see. The War of the Second Coalition being fought when Napoleon became consul in 1799. The wars that were being fought were against Russia, Great Britain, Austria, Ottoman Empire. He will sign a peace treaty with them in 1802. However, that peace treaty will not last long. Like many emperors, his head will become bigger than it really needs to be and really should be for the time. War of the Third Coalition is going to start in 1805, and this time it will be Great Britain, Austria, Russia, Prussia, and Sweden will be the ones that he fights against. And as you can see, Austria will be knocked out along with Prussia and those respective years. Napoleon's success helps to redraw the entire map of Europe. He creates a grand empire by 1812. It's divided into three parts. The French Empire, or an enlarged France, formed the core. Dependent state, kingdom ruled by relatives of Napoleon, and then allied states, areas defeated by Napoleon and forced to join against Great Britain. This empire that he creates creates an intense spirit of French nationalism or pride in one's country. Remember this term nationalism because this is a big part in why World War I will eventually break out. This idea of pride in one's country. But here becomes the Empire of French. Anything dark purple is the enlarged France. Small purple is a dependent state on Napoleon, and the pink is allied with Napoleon. So you can see it completely draws the entire map, and all of Central Europe becomes part of this great empire, this grand empire. The green are countries that are allied against him. Okay. So, giving you an idea of just what this empire looks like. Life in the Grand Empire. Napoleon will work to destroy the old order and core empire independent states. He essentially wants to destroy what was before and start over. Nobles will lose special privileges. All people equal before the law. Decreed equal opportunity for public offices and religious toleration. Those are the four things that he is going to make sure the old countries, old kingdoms get rid of and are replaced with. He's going to spread liberal ideas in conquered areas. Invaders were both hated and admired at the same time. Inspired nationalism that will lead to spread of civil war. Conquered peoples saw power and strength and unity. So even though they may be invaded, this invasion is going to essentially spread this idea of nationalism. The people of France will not be the only ones who feel power in a unity with each other. But he will spread that feeling of pride in one's country to other countries, and that nationalistic feel is going to help spread these civil wars, these breakout of wars, and even some rebellions against Napoleon are going to be spread because there's this feeling of pride in a country, in one's country and one's home. British resistance, the Britain only country that resists Napoleon effectively, and that's essentially because they're an island. He has no real means of getting there besides boat, and Britain has a very effective navy. As you can see, they have they are far superior in the naval aspect. And this battle in 1805 is essentially going to end any delusion that France has of invading England. The British Navy is just going to cream the French Navy. There's not even going to be a chance for the French to take over. Napoleon attempted to use the continental system to destroy Britain economically. So he essentially will try and stop any goods from being sold to Great Britain. Anything that's made in mainland Europe will not be sent to Britain. He's hoping to starve them to death, essentially. The plan fails miserably, though. Allied states resented being told not to trade with British. Just because their thought is just because we're allied with you does not mean you can tell us what to do. We will be your allies. However, we are still going to do what's right for business, and what's right for business is working with the British. New markets in Middle East and Asia helped British exports reach near all-time highs in 1810. So even though Napoleon says Europe can't trade with them, the rest of the world's going to. They're not going to stop just because Napoleon doesn't want them to. The beginning and the end comes when Russia refuses to participate in this continental system. Tsar Alexander I will begin to gather troops, and Napoleon will notice these troop movements. He is going to start becoming spooked. Napoleon thought Russia needed to be punished to keep other countries from following, and he knew invasion would pose great risks. However, he was hoping for a quick victory, and Napoleon will lead his 600,000 men strong army into Russia in June 1812. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out for him. The Russian forces refuse to engage in battle. They retreat hundreds of miles inland, and they adopt a scorched earth policy, as they call it, to prevent Napoleon's army from getting food and supplies. Grand Army finally reaches Moscow in September, and they find the cities ablaze with no food and no supplies. What the scorched earth policy is essentially is Russia is going to retreat, and then any part that they retreat, before they leave, they're going to burn it to the ground. Leave nothing for Napoleon. What Napoleon's plan was as he was going deeper into Russia, he was hoping that by taking over these cities, these towns, he would be able to replenish his food and water supply. With Russians adopting the scorched earth policy, there's not going to be any food or water left for them to take. So the Russians are effectively starving Napoleon and just waiting him out. So when they find the city ablaze, Napoleon will abandon Moscow in what's called the Great Retreat. They leave in late October, and the winter snows have already arrived. That is the secret of this that the Russians kept. The greatest weapon that the Russians will ever have is the Russian winter. Their winters are brutal, they are hard, and if you are not properly prepared for them, you will die. And that's exactly what's going to happen to Napoleon. From 600,000, fewer than 20,000 men will come back in January. Over 500,000 men will die just from a few from the battles. Majority will die from the Russian winter because they are not nearly as prepared as they should be for it. As you can see, here's a map of the Russian campaign. They go as far as Moscow, and then they retreat back to Prussia, or what's now Poland, in retreat. Because of this, Napoleon is sent into exile. The disaster in Russia empowers enemies of France. Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Great Britain meet with Napoleon in a place called Leipzig in October 1813, and the crippled French army clearly loses the battle. And then this coalition of 4 countries enter Paris in March, and Napoleon is forced to surrender and give up his throne or abdicate. He's going to be exiled to an island of Elba down in the Mediterranean. Louis the 18th, brother of Louis the 16th, will be restored to the throne, and France gives up everything that was gained by the Grand Empire. France returns to its original borders. So that's not the end of Napoleon, though. Louis the 18th will grow unpopular within a short time. People are afraid that with Louis returning to the throne, that the old regime is coming back, and they don't want it. The people of France do not want the old regime back. Economic depression is going to grip the country once again. Napoleon saw the opportunity to return to France, and he hires a ship to take him back, and he lands on the north coast. Rumors of return sent Louis the 18th fleeing to Belgium. He knew it was coming, or at least he thought he knew it was coming, that Napoleon is going to try and take over. Louis was smart enough to see the writing on the wall. He wasn't popular. Napoleon could be seen as a hero if he played his cards right. Troops are sent to arrest Napoleon, but they pledged loyalty to Napoleon instead. And Napoleon arrives in Paris on March 20th to cheering crowds. He's returning as a hero. And the final showdown starts. The European troops brace for a final showdown with Napoleon. The rest of Europe isn't going to stand for Napoleon coming back. The people of France may want him. The rest of Europe doesn't, so they're going to fight. And the fighting essentially starts at Waterloo in Belgium in June. British, Belgian, Dutch, Prussian, and German troops are present. It's led by the British commander known as the Duke of Wellington. And the battle was fierce throughout the day. Napoleon could not outfight the enemy and is defeated. Unfortunately, the rest of Europe grew smart to his strategies. He didn't come up with anything new, and the people of Europe were able to defend against his military strategies that used to work before. Both sides will suffer heavy losses, unfortunately, and the battle is the end of the Napoleonic Wars. And lastly, the end of Napoleon. He flees to the coast after Waterloo, and he tries to escape to America. However, he's captured very soon after. He's set much further away than Elba, so this way there will be no possible way that he will know what's going on in France. He's exiled to St. Helena, an island in the South Atlantic Ocean. As you can see, it's off the coast of Africa. He is going to die in 1821 at the age of 51. Cause of death never determined definitively. However, during an autopsy, there were traces of stomach cancer, and it is said that if the stomach cancer is what killed him, it would have been a very, very painful and slow death. So his last few years would not have been happy ones. They would have been not only embarrassment from the exile, but they would have been very physically painful as well from the stomach cancer. But that's it for Napoleon and the French Revolution. Until next time, guys, I will see you later.